Let's keep setting things up so that going forward, it will be easy for us to quickly generate models that already have the hash IDs implemented and migrations that have the hash ID field already put in. At the moment, when we create a migration, we want that migration to have a hash ID field, which means we'll have to manually put in the hash ID here. And if we create a model, we also want that model to automatically have the with hash ID trait so that we can generate those hash IDs for our models. You can do this manually every time, but I prefer not to. I prefer to make it easier. This means that we need to override the stub that Laravel uses to generate our migrations. Okay. Right now, when we generate the migration class, it comes with the ID and it comes with the timestamps, but we also want to automatically have the hash ID field entered in every migration that we generate. Also, in the models, we want it to automatically use the with hash ID trait, and then we can just fill in every other thing that is particular to that model. So to override this functionality in Laravel, we have to publish the stubs that come with Laravel. You've heard about stubs before when we generate our console command, that we create stubs here and it contains a blueprint for how we want that class to look. That is what Laravel uses internally to generate migrations and controllers and models, and we want to do that here. So to override the stubs, we need to do a PHP artisan stub publish. And this command will publish all the stubs that Laravel uses to generate its classes. All right, so you can see a bunch of them here. If you want to generate a resource, you see that this is what we use to generate the resource. And you see the replacement variables that we used when we created our own commands. That's exactly what Laravel is using here to generate those classes. So here, what we want to override is the stub for generating models. So let's look for model stub. And in this model stub, we want to say use with hash ID, which is what we have in our user model, for instance. And we need to import that trait every time we create a model class. So I'll simply copy that over and put it here. And so when we generate a new model, it will automatically have this with hash ID trait in it. We also want to override the create migration. And the create migration, as we mentioned, it comes with the ID and it comes with the timestamp. But we also want them to contain the hash ID field. So table string hash ID, and that is nullable. So every other thing will come in here. But for now, each time you generate a migration, it will have this hash ID field included, and the model will have the use with hash ID trait imported. So let's test that and see how it works. If I just go here and I say PHP artisan, make migration or make model, let's say test and generate with a migration, and I enter, we should be able to go to our migrations first, look at the test migration that I just created. So create test, and we see that it does come with the tests. I omitted the closing quote. So I'll go back to the stub and fix that. So if we go to migrate or migration create, we need to fix that hash ID there and put in the stub. But you get the point. It does include that by default, and we can continue to populate whatever fields we need for that model. And so when Laravel is generating anything, what we put here, it will look for it first. And if it doesn't find it, then it will go to the vendor package and then look for the stub that came with Laravel. So anything you customize here will be used going forward. If we also look at the models that was created, in this case, a test model, it does have the with hash ID trait imported. And so we can just continue to fill in the model class with anything else that we need. So at this point, we do have our structure set up. Everything looks good. It's working. And we have done a lot of customization so far. So going forward, we will be using that, and it will speed things up for us as we develop other models and other classes and everything else in the application.